Senior Chief Petty Officer Derek Garrison's hand closed around the back of Maya Reeves' neck and shoved her face first into the sand. "You're a liability," he said, loud enough for every recruit to hear. "Women like you get real operators killed." Maya's cheek burned against the grit. She'd killed 7 men with her bare hands 18 months ago in Syria while escaping an ISIS compound. Garrison had no idea the 4 Navy officers watching from the observation deck knew exactly who she was, or that his 20-year career would be over before sunset. He thought he was protecting his teams. He was about to learn what real warfare looked like. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, welcome. Before we dive into this story, hit that subscribe button because what you're about to hear needs to be told. And drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story reaches. Now let's begin. The assault happened at 6:15 on a Tuesday morning in late October at Naval Special Warfare Basic Training Prep Course, Coronado, California. The sun hadn't cleared the horizon yet. The Pacific Ocean was still dark gray, and the sand felt cold under bare feet. Petty Officer 2nd Class Maya Reeves stood 5'4" in her combat boots and weighed 118 pounds soaking wet. She had dark brown hair pulled back in a regulation bun, green eyes that didn't blink when men yelled in her face, and hands that looked too small to hold a rifle properly. She looked exactly like what Senior Chief Derek Garrison thought she was. Someone who didn't belong. "On your face!" Garrison shouted. "All of you, push-up position, now!" 42 recruits dropped. Maya was among them. Her palms pressed into the sand, her back was straight, her breathing was controlled. Garrison walked down the line, boots crunching. He was 42 years old, barrel-chested, with 20 years in the teams and a reputation for breaking anyone who couldn't meet standards. He'd lost his swim buddy in Afghanistan 3 years ago. Every time he looked at a female recruit, he saw that loss happening again. "This isn't sensitivity training," Garrison said, his voice carrying across the beach. "This is preparation for war. Real war. Where your weakness gets your teammate killed. Where there are no second chances, no excuses, no participation trophies." He stopped beside Maya. "Petty Officer Reeves, stand up." Maya stood. Her uniform was already soaked with sweat from the morning run. Her shoulder still ached from yesterday's log PT. "You think you belong here?" Garrison asked. "Yes, Senior Chief." "You think you can keep up with these men?" "Yes, Senior Chief." "You're a liar." The words hung in the air. Several recruits glanced sideways. No one spoke. Garrison stepped closer. "You're 5'4". "You weigh what, 120 pounds? Half the operators I know would break you in half just rolling over in their rack. You think you're going to carry a wounded teammate under fire? You think you're going to haul your body weight plus 80 pounds of gear through ocean swims and mountain rucks and combat insertions?" "Yes, Senior Chief." "Prove it. Buddy carries, you and Seaman Morrison. Now." Seaman Jake Morrison was 19 years old, 6'2", 210 pounds. He looked at Maya with something like apology in his eyes. She didn't acknowledge it. "Morrison, on her shoulders. Go." Morrison hesitated. "Senior Chief, Did I stutter, Seaman?" "No, Senior Chief." Morrison positioned himself. Maya squatted, got her shoulders under his chest, locked her hands behind his knees, and stood. Her legs shook. Morrison weighed nearly twice what she did. But she stood. "Run to the waterline and back," Garrison said. "You drop him, you fail." Maya ran. Her quads burned. Her lower back screamed. Morrison tried to distribute his weight to help her. She made it 15 meters before her right knee buckled. She didn't drop him. She went down controlled, lowered Morrison safely, took the impact on her shoulder. Garrison was on her immediately. "I said you'd fail. You just proved my point. You're a diversity checkbox. The Navy lowered standards to let you in here, and now you're taking a slot from someone who could actually do the job." Maya stood up. Her shoulder was already swelling. She said nothing. "You disagree, Petty Officer?" "No, Senior Chief." "No what? You agree you're a diversity hire?" "I disagree that I can't do the job." Garrison's jaw tightened. "Then do it again." Morrison, on her shoulders. "Senior Chief," Morrison started. "Now!" Maya squatted. Morrison climbed on. She stood. Her legs were already fatigued. The swelling in her shoulder made the weight distribution uneven. She ran anyway. Made it 20 meters this time before she went down. Again, she lowered Morrison safely. Again, she took the impact. "Pathetic," Garrison said. "You're going to get someone killed, not yourself. You'll quit before that happens. But the operator next to you, the one who has to pick up your slack, carry your weight, compensate for your weakness, that's who dies because you were selfish enough to think you belonged here." Maya's breathing was steady. Her heart rate was elevated but controlled. She'd learned to manage stress in a CIA safe house in Idlib province while listening to ISIS fighters kicking in the door. This was nothing. But something in her stillness infuriated Garrison. He stepped forward and shoved her, hard, both hands to her shoulders. She went backward into the sand. "Get up!" Maya stood. "You think this is abuse? You think I'm being unfair? This is mercy. I'm showing you now, in training, that you don't have what it takes." "Better you learn here than downrange when lives are on the line." 4 men in civilian clothes stood on the observation deck 80 meters away. They'd been watching for the past 20 minutes. Captain James Keller held a tablet. Captain Sarah Voss had her arms crossed. Captain Michael Chen's jaw was tight. Commander Travis Ward was already pulling out his phone. They were all from Naval Special Warfare Development Group, DevGRU, SEAL Team 6. They knew exactly who Maya Reeves was. They'd come to Coronado to evaluate instructor quality. Instead, they were watching a senior chief commit assault. Captain Voss spoke quietly. "That's the second time he's put hands on her." "Third," Keller said. "He shoved her during warm-ups. You were reviewing her file." "We need to stop this now," Commander Ward said. "Not yet," Voss replied. "She hasn't broken. Let's see where this goes." Chen looked at her. "You want to use her as bait? I want to see if Garrison hangs himself, and I want to see how she handles it." Back on the beach, Garrison was still talking. "I had a swim buddy once. Best operator I ever worked with. He died because someone on the team wasn't strong enough to pull their weight when it mattered. You know what that looks like? Watching someone you trained with, someone you trusted with your life, bleed out in the dirt because the chain failed at its weakest link?" His voice cracked slightly. The anger was real. The pain was real. Maya's expression didn't change. "I'm sorry for your loss, Senior Chief. I don't want your sympathy. I want you gone before you get someone else killed." "Then you'll have to remove me, Senior Chief, because I'm not quitting." Garrison's face went red. "Surf torture. Everyone, in the water, now!" The recruits ran for the ocean. The water was 58 degrees. Waves crashed at chest height. They waded in, linked arms, sat down in the shallows. The cold was immediate and brutal. Garrison stood on the shore, watching. "You stay there until I say otherwise. And Petty Officer Reeves, you stay twice as long as everyone else, since you think you're tough enough." 40 minutes later, he called the formation out. Everyone except Maya. She stayed in the water. Her lips were blue, her hands were shaking. Hypothermia was setting in, but her eyes were still clear. Morrison started to protest. Another recruit grabbed his arm, shook his head. They knew what would happen if they intervened. Garrison waited another 15 minutes. Then he walked down to the waterline. "Get out." Maya stood. Her legs barely functioned. She walked out of the surf, stood at attention, dripping. "You're done for the day," Garrison said. "Medical check. Make sure you didn't give yourself hypothermia trying to prove a point." "I'm fine, Senior Chief." That wasn't a request. Maya walked toward the medical tent. Her gait was steady despite the cold. Several recruits watched her go. One of them, a tall kid from Texas named Ramirez, spoke quietly to Morrison. "That was messed up." "Yeah," Morrison said. "Why didn't she quit? I would have quit." "I don't think she knows how to quit." In the medical tent, a Navy corpsman checked Maya's core temperature, examined the swelling in her shoulder, asked if she wanted to file a complaint. "No," Maya said. "Petty officer, that was clearly, 'I'm not filing a complaint.'" The corpsman handed her dry clothes. "Your call. But that senior chief has a reputation. This isn't the first time." Maya changed, walked back to the barracks. Her room was 8 by 10 feet. A rack, a wall locker, a small desk. She sat on the rack and pressed her fingers against her shoulder. The pain was sharp but manageable. She'd felt worse. Syria, 18 months ago. She'd dislocated this same shoulder climbing through a burning window while escaping a compromised safe house. She'd popped it back into socket herself and kept moving. Ran 12 miles through ISIS-controlled territory with her arm in a makeshift sling she'd fashioned from her headscarf. During that escape, 7 men had tried to stop her. She'd killed all of them. 2 with a knife she'd taken off the first one, 3 with an AK-47 she'd stripped from the second, 2 more with her hands when she'd run out of ammunition. She'd done it because stopping meant death. Because the intelligence she carried would save lives. Because she'd been trained to survive. Derek Garrison thought he was teaching her about warfare. He had no idea she'd already graduated from a much harder school. She lay back on the rack and closed her eyes. Her shoulder throbbed. Her muscles ached from the cold. But her mind was calm. Tomorrow, Garrison would escalate. He always did with the ones who didn't break. She'd watched his pattern over the past 3 weeks. Watched him target the recruits he thought were weak. Watched him push until they either quit or proved themselves. The difference was, the men he pushed eventually earned his respect when they endured. The women never did. They were always just diversity hires who got lucky. Maya had been assigned to BUD/S prep as administrative cover while her clearances were updated and her next operational assignment was determined. Her real file was classified TS/SCI. Her service record listed her as a cryptologic technician. The truth was buried in a secure database that required DEV-GRU level access to read. She wasn't here to prove anything to Derek Garrison. She was here because the CIA needed her somewhere quiet, while political fallout from the Syria operation cooled down. But Garrison had made it personal, and Maya had learned long ago that when someone made it personal, you didn't back down. You waited. You watched. You let them commit fully. Then you showed them exactly who they were dealing with. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Enter." Morrison stepped inside, holding 2 protein bars and a bottle of water. "Thought you might be hungry." Maya sat up. "Thanks." He handed them over, hesitated. "That was wrong, what he did. We should have said something. And gotten yourselves removed from the program? That would have helped how? Still, we just watched." Maya opened the water, drank. "He's testing you too. Seeing if you'll prioritize loyalty to each other over loyalty to authority. Seeing if you have the spine to stand up when it matters. Did we fail? You're here now. That counts for something. Morrison sat on the edge of the desk. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why aren't you quitting? I mean, you could transfer, request a different instructor, file a complaint. Instead, you're just taking it. Maya bit into the protein bar. Because quitting would validate everything he thinks about women in combat roles. It would prove his point. And I'm not giving him that satisfaction. But he's not going to stop. I know. So what's the plan? Just endure until he gets bored? Maya looked at him. Her green eyes were steady. The plan is to be so good at everything he throws at me that he runs out of excuses. And when he finally crosses a line he can't uncross, he'll have to answer for it. That's a hell of a gamble. War is a gamble. This is just training. Morrison stood. For what it's worth, I think you're tougher than half the guys here. Only half? He smiled slightly. Okay, most of them. After he left, Maya finished the protein bar and lay back down. She could hear voices outside, other recruits talking, someone laughing. Normal sounds. The world continuing, despite everything. She thought about her father. He'd died when she was 16. His fishing boat capsized in a Bering Sea storm. She'd been on deck when it happened, watched him go over the rail. Couldn't reach him in time. She'd saved 3 crew members that night by taking the helm and navigating through conditions that should have killed all of them. She'd been terrified, but she'd done it anyway. Her father had taught her that fear was just information. It told you something was dangerous, but it didn't tell you to quit. That was always your choice. Garrison thought he was teaching her about pressure, about what happened when your body wanted to quit, but the mission required you to continue. He didn't understand that she'd already learned that lesson in water much colder than Coronado's ocean, in circumstances much more desperate than a training exercise. The next morning, he would learn, but not from her, from the 4 officers who'd been watching everything. And when they were done with him, Derek Garrison's understanding of what it meant to be a warrior was going to change forever, whether he wanted it to or not. The 4 officers met at 0530 the next morning in a conference room at the Naval Special Warfare Center, 3 blocks from the beach where Garrison had assaulted Maya the day before. Captain Sarah Voss spread Maya's classified file across the table. Most of the pages were redacted black bars, but enough remained to tell the story. Syria, March 2023, Voss said. She was embedded solo with a rebel unit in Idlib province, CIA Special Activities Division. Her cover was blown by a double agent. She spent 12 days evading ISIS while carrying intelligence on a chemical weapons cell. Captain James Keller leaned forward, reading. Jesus. She eliminated 7 hostiles during exfiltration. Close quarters. No support. 3 with a knife, Commander Travis Ward added. 4 with captured weapons. The after-action report says she had a dislocated shoulder and second-degree burns when extraction reached her. Captain Michael Chen looked up from the file, and Garrison thinks she's a diversity hire. He doesn't know, Voss said. Her cover assignment lists her as a cryptologic technician. Even her service record is sanitized. You need DevGru clearance to access the real file. So we tell him, Ward said. No. Voss closed the file. We document his pattern first, because this isn't just about Reeves. She can handle herself. This is about the 2 other female recruits he ran out of the program in the past 18 months. Keller pulled up incident reports on his tablet. Petty Officer Christina Wade, February 2024. dropped from BUD/S prep after multiple injuries during training, filed an informal complaint claiming Garrison sabotaged her equipment. Complaint was dismissed. And? Chen asked. And she's now working admin at a recruiting station in Nebraska. Her performance reviews before Garrison's course were outstanding. After, she requested the least competitive billet she could find. Ward shook his head. He broke her. Seaman Ashley Torres, Voss continued. October 2023. Removed from the program after failing the combat conditioning test 3 times. Also claimed Garrison created impossible standards specifically for her. Did she file formally? Keller asked. No. She was afraid of retaliation. She's out of the Navy entirely now. Medical separation for depression and anxiety. The room went quiet. Outside, they could hear recruits running past, their cadence calls echoing off the buildings. Chen spoke carefully. If we intervene now, we tip our hand. Garrison lawyers up, claims we're attacking him for maintaining standards. It becomes a he said, she said. But if we wait, Ward said, Reeves takes more abuse. Reeves can handle more abuse, Voss replied. What she can't handle is us stepping in and proving Garrison's point, that women need special protection, that they can't fight their own battles. Keller met her eyes. You're using her. I'm trusting her. There's a difference, and if he crosses a line we can't ignore, then we end him. But we do it right. We document everything. We build a case that's ironclad, and when we move, we make sure he never teaches another recruit again. On the beach, Maya was running. The formation had started at 0600 with a 5-mile conditioning run. Garrison set the pace at 6:30 per mile, faster than regulation, fast enough to hurt. She kept up. Her shoulder ached from yesterday's impact, but she'd wrapped it tight and swallowed 4 ibuprofen before formation. Pain was just information. It told her something was damaged. It didn't tell her to stop. Morrison ran beside her, breathing hard. You okay? Fine. Your shoulder is fine. Garrison appeared on her left, matching her pace easily. Feeling sore today, Petty Officer Reeves? No, Senior Chief. Liar. I can see you favoring that right side. You hurt yourself yesterday trying to prove you're strong enough. That's pride. Pride gets people killed. Maya said nothing. Her breathing stayed controlled. You know what your problem is? Garrison continued, his voice loud enough for the whole formation to hear. You think this is about you. You think if you just try hard enough, endure enough, you'll earn respect. But this isn't about respect. This is about capability. And you don't have it. Yes, Senior Chief. You disagree? I disagree that I don't have capability. Garrison smiled. It wasn't friendly. Then prove it. After this run, underwater knot tying drills. You fail, you're done. The drill was simple in concept, brutal in execution. Recruits submerged themselves in the training pool, tied specific knots underwater while holding their breath, surfaced, repeated. The standard was 5 knots in 3 minutes. Maya had done this before, not in training, in Syria. The safe house in Idlib had a basement. When ISIS fighters breached the main floor, she'd gone down, found a drainage pipe, submerged herself in filthy water, and waited. She'd stayed under for 2 minutes and 40 seconds while boots stomped overhead. When she'd finally surfaced, gasping, she'd known she could survive anything. This pool was clean, warm, safe. This was nothing. She dove. The water closed over her head. Her hands found the rope. Bowline, square knot, clove hitch. Her lungs started burning at 90 seconds. She ignored them. Figure 8, sheet bend. She surfaced at 2 minutes 15 seconds. All 5 knots perfect. Garrison was waiting. Again. This time, 6 knots. 2 minutes. Senior Chief, the standard is 5 in 3. I'm giving you a new standard. Go. She dove. Her shoulders screamed when she pulled the rope tight. The burns on her back, scars from the burning safe house window, stretched and ached in the cold water. But her hands kept moving. 6 knots. She surfaced at 2 minutes 5 seconds. 7 knots. 90 seconds. Morrison, standing poolside, spoke up. Senior Chief, did I ask for your input, Seaman? No, Senior Chief, but then shut your mouth before I have you join her. Maya dove again. 7 knots in 90 seconds was physically impossible for most people. She tied 6. Surfaced at 1 minute 40. Failed the standard Garrison had just invented. He was smiling when she came up. Failure. Everyone take note. This is what happens when you don't have the physical capacity for the job. No amount of heart makes up for biological limitation. Maya pulled herself out of the pool. Water streamed off her uniform. Request permission to try again, Senior Chief. Denied. You failed. Live with it. That afternoon, Captain Voss made a phone call to the commanding officer of Naval Special Warfare Center. She didn't mention Maya by name. She mentioned a pattern of concerning instructor behavior and requested authorization to observe training more closely. The CO, a Navy captain named Richards, who'd served with Voss in Iraq, approved immediately. You think we've got a problem? I think we need to verify standards are being applied consistently. Do what you need to do. Just keep it quiet until you're sure. Voss hung up and turned to Keller. We're cleared to observe, but we need something concrete. How long do we wait? As long as it takes for Garrison to hang himself. The next day, Garrison scheduled a combat conditioning drill. Buddy carries through the obstacle course. He paired Maya with the largest recruit in the class, a former college linebacker named Patterson, who weighed 240 pounds. You carry him, Garrison said. Then he carries you. First team to complete the course wins. Last team runs it again. Patterson looked uncomfortable. Senior Chief, the weight difference is reality. In combat, you don't get to choose who's wounded. You carry whoever needs carrying. Or you leave them to die. Maya squatted. Patterson climbed onto her shoulders, trying to distribute his weight. She stood. Her knees almost buckled. She'd carried wounded operators before, Brooks in Afghanistan, though that was in her classified file, details she couldn't speak. But this was different. This was designed to fail her. She made it 15 meters before her right knee gave out. She went down controlled, didn't drop Patterson, took the impact on her already injured shoulder. The pain was white-hot. Something tore. She felt it separate. Garrison was there immediately. Pathetic. You can't even carry a teammate 50 meters on flat ground. How would you manage in mountains, in jungle, under fire? Maya stood. Her shoulder hung wrong. The pain made her vision swim, but her voice was steady. I can continue, Senior Chief. You're injured. I can continue. I'm ordering you to medical. That's not a request. At the medical tent, the corpsman examined her shoulder, winced. Petty officer, this is a grade 2 separation. Maybe grade 3. You need an x-ray and probably physical therapy. You're done with heavy training for at least 6 weeks. Can you tape it? Tape won't fix a separation. Can you stabilize it enough for me to continue light duty? The corpsman sighed. I can stabilize it, but I'm documenting this injury and recommending you be removed from the program until you're healed. Don't. That's not your call. Please. The corpsman looked at her for a long moment. Why are you doing this to yourself? Maya thought about the answer. Thought about the real reason she was here. The classified mission that had ended with 7 dead men and intelligence that saved hundreds of lives. Thought about the CIA officer who'd debriefed her, who'd told her she was too valuable to waste, but too hot to deploy until the political situation stabilized. Thought about being put in a box labeled administrative holding and sent to the least important assignment available until someone decided what to do with her. Garrison thought she was here to prove women belonged in combat. He had no idea she'd already proven it in ways that would stay classified for the next 25 years. "Because I don't quit," she said finally. The corpsman taped her shoulder, gave her a sling, told her to wear it for at least 48 hours. She left it in the medical tent and walked back to the barracks. Morrison was waiting outside. "Jesus, your shoulder is fine." "It's not fine. I saw you go down. I saw how it's hanging. It'll heal." "Why are you protecting him? He's trying to break you. File a complaint. Get him removed. You've got witnesses now. Half the class saw what he did." Maya sat on the barracks steps. The sun was setting over the ocean. "If I file a complaint, what happens?" "Garrison gets investigated, probably removed from his position." "And then what? I get labeled as someone who can't handle tough training? Someone who runs to authority instead of proving myself? Every male operator I work with for the rest of my career will wonder if I earned my place or if I just filed complaints until someone gave it to me. That's not fair. War isn't fair. Neither is this. But I'd rather earn respect through capability than through complaints." Morrison shook his head. "You're going to get seriously hurt." "I've been seriously hurt before. I'm still here." She didn't tell him about Syria, didn't tell him about the ISIS fighter who'd caught her in the burning safe house, who'd grabbed her from behind while flames spread across the ceiling. She'd dislocated her shoulder, breaking his grip, then relocated it herself while running through the streets with enemy fighters tracking her movement. She'd survived that. She could survive Garrison. That night, the 4 SEAL officers met again. Keller showed them video footage from the obstacle course. "This is assault," he said flatly. He deliberately paired her with someone twice her weight, knowing she'd get injured. That's not training. That's retaliation. "It's also plausibly deniable," Chen replied. "He can claim he was testing realistic combat scenarios." "Her shoulder is separated," Ward said. "Medical documented it. That's evidence." Voss watched the video again, watching Maya go down, watching her face when the pain hit. No scream, no cry, just silence and control. "She didn't file a complaint," Voss said. "What?" "The corpsman offered to document it as training negligence. She refused. She told him it was her fault for not being strong enough." Keller swore quietly. "She's protecting him?" "She's protecting herself from what she thinks will happen if she's seen as someone who can't take the pressure." "That's insane." "That's survival," Voss said quietly. "She's been operating in hostile environments where showing weakness means death. She's not going to change that mindset just because the threat comes from her own instructor instead of enemy fighters." Ward leaned back. "So what do we do?" "We wait for Garrison to escalate beyond what anyone can excuse, and we make sure we're there when he does." The next morning, Maya's shoulder had swollen to twice its normal size. The pain was constant, sharp with every movement. She showed up to formation anyway. Garrison looked at her sling. "You're injured." "I can still train, Senior Chief." "Not with that shoulder." "I can run, I can swim, I can do everything that doesn't require carrying weight." "The program requires carrying weight." "Then I'll do it anyway." Something flickered across Garrison's face. Not respect, but something close to it. Frustration, maybe, or recognition. "You've got 2 weeks to heal," he said finally. "After that, You're back to full training, or you're out. Understood? Yes, Senior Chief. But that afternoon, he scheduled Hell Night. Hell Night wasn't supposed to happen for another month. It was the culminating event of BUD/S prep, 72 hours of continuous physical and mental stress designed to simulate the worst conditions of SEAL training. Garrison moved it up, announced it to the class that evening. Hell Night starts at 2200 hours, he said. You'll be in the surf zone for hours. You'll be cold, exhausted, pushed past what you think are your limits. Some of you will quit. Most of you will quit. The ones who don't will learn what it actually takes to be a warrior. He looked directly at Maya when he said it. Morrison whispered, "You can't do Hell Night with a separated shoulder." Watch me. At 2200 hours, the class linked arms in the surf zone. The water was 56 degrees. Waves crashed over their heads. Garrison stood on the shore with a bullhorn. You stay in that water until I say otherwise. You quit when you realize you're not tough enough. Ring the bell 3 times and it all stops. Hot coffee, warm blankets, and the knowledge that you're not cut out for this. The first recruit quit after 20 minutes, then another, then 3 more. Maya's shoulder was screaming. The cold water made the injury feel like someone was driving nails into the joint with every wave. But she kept her face neutral, her breathing steady. Garrison waded into the surf, stopped in front of her. How's that shoulder, Petty Officer? Fine, Senior Chief. You're shaking. From the cold. You're in pain. I can continue. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he reached out and pressed his thumb directly into her injured shoulder. The pain was blinding. Maya's vision went white, but she didn't scream, didn't pull away. She met his eyes and said nothing. Garrison released the pressure. You should quit. No, Senior Chief. I'm trying to help you. You're going to permanently damage that shoulder if you keep pushing. Then I'll deal with the consequences. Why? What are you trying to prove? Maya's teeth were chattering, but her voice was clear. That I belong here. You don't. Then make me quit, because I'm not doing it on my own. Garrison stepped back. Something changed in his expression. For just a second, he looked almost uncertain. Then he turned and walked back to shore. 3 hours later, he finally called them out of the water. Half the class had quit. Maya was still there, her lips blue, her whole body shaking, her shoulder a mass of pain. Medical checked everyone. The corpsman who examined Maya looked alarmed. Your shoulder is worse, significantly worse. I'm recommending immediate medical separation from the program. No. Petty Officer, this isn't optional. If you keep training on this injury, you risk permanent nerve damage. On the observation deck, Captain Voss watched through night vision binoculars. She saw the corpsman arguing with Maya, saw Maya shake her head repeatedly. She's going to destroy that shoulder, Keller said beside her. I know. We need to stop this. Not yet. Sarah, I said not yet. Garrison hasn't crossed the line into something actionable. Tough training isn't illegal, even if it results in injury. This is beyond tough training. Prove it. Show me where he violated a specific regulation. Show me where he did something that can't be explained as maintaining high standards. Keller was quiet for a moment. You really think she can handle more of this? Voss lowered the binoculars. I think she's handled worse. I think she's survived things that would break most of us. And I think if we step in now, we rob her of the chance to win this fight on her own terms. And if she loses, then we intervene. But we let her fight first. Below, Maya walked away from the medical tent without the recommended separation. Her shoulder hung at the wrong angle. Her face was pale from cold and pain. But she walked to her barracks without assistance, closed the door, and sat alone in the dark, pressing her fingers against the separation, feeling where the bones had come apart. She'd reset a dislocation before, in Syria, with no medical training and no painkillers. This was worse. The bones weren't just displaced, they were torn apart at the ligaments. She couldn't fix this alone. But she could survive it long enough to prove Garrison wrong. And that would have to be enough. Hour 48 of Hell Night. Maya's shoulder had gone from sharp pain to a dull roar that never stopped. She'd learned to compartmentalize it, the way she'd learned to ignore the burns on her back while running through Idlib with ISIS fighters tracking her movement. Pain was just another variable. It didn't control her decisions. The class stood in formation on the beach, shivering. They'd been wet for 2 days straight. Most of the original 42 recruits were gone. 18 remained. Maya was among them. Garrison walked down the line, his boots leaving prints in the sand. He looked fresh, rested. He'd slept. They hadn't. "Serve torture," he announced. "Everyone in the water, link arms. Stay until I say otherwise." They waded in. The cold hit like a fist. Maya's injured shoulders screamed when she linked arms with Morrison on her left and Ramirez on her right. Morrison whispered, "Your shoulder's worse. I can see the swelling through your shirt." "Doesn't matter." "It does matter. You need medical attention." "I need to finish this." Garrison waded into the surf, stopped directly in front of Maya. "Petty Officer Reeves, come here." She broke from the formation, stood before him. Water crashed around their waists. "Your shoulders separated," he said. "Yes, Senior Chief." "You should be in medical." "I'm where I need to be, Senior Chief." "No. You're where your pride puts you. There's a difference." Maya met his eyes. "Are you ordering me to medical, Senior Chief?" Garrison studied her face. "Why won't you quit? What's so important that you're willing to permanently damage your body?" "I made a promise." "To who?" "To myself. That I'd never quit something because it was hard. That I'd never validate someone's low expectations of me." "This isn't about expectations. This is about reality. Your shoulder is failing. Your body is breaking down. In real operations, you'd be a liability." "Then test me. Give me something that actually matters instead of standing in cold water. Let me prove I can perform when it counts." Something shifted in Garrison's expression. "You want a real test?" "Yes, Senior Chief." He turned to the class. "Everyone out, except Reeves." The other recruits waded toward shore. Morrison hesitated, looked back. Ramirez pulled him forward. Maya stood alone in the surf with Garrison. "You think you can handle stress?" Garrison asked quietly. "You think you know what it's like when your body shuts down and the mission still requires you to function?" "Yes, Senior Chief." "Then let's find out." He grabbed the back of her neck and shoved her head underwater. The ocean closed over Maya's face. Garrison's hand pressed down hard, holding her under. She didn't struggle, didn't panic. She'd been underwater before, in the basement of the Idlib safe house, breathing through a drainage pipe while ISIS fighters searched overhead. This was nothing. She counted. 1 second. 2. 3. 4. At 12 seconds, Garrison pulled her up. "That was stress," he said. "Real stress. Combat conditions where you can't breathe, can't think, can't do anything but survive. Could you handle that with a separated shoulder?" Maya's breathing was controlled, despite the water she'd inhaled. "Yes, Senior Chief." "Liar." He shoved her under again. This time he held her for 15 seconds. When he pulled her up, she coughed once, cleared her lungs, stood steady. "You're trying to prove something. Garrison said. But all you're proving is that you're too stubborn to recognize your own limitations. Or maybe I know my limitations better than you do. His jaw tightened. Last chance. Quit now, or I break you completely. I'm not quitting. On the observation deck, Captain Voss grabbed her phone. That's assault. Clear assault, no gray area. Keller was already moving toward the stairs. We're done waiting. Not yet, Voss said, but her voice was uncertain now. Ward pointed. He just waterboarded her, twice, in front of witnesses. If we go down there now, what changes? He claims it was a stress inoculation drill. She refuses to press charges because she doesn't want to be seen as weak. Nothing happens. So we let him keep going? We let her finish this. She's earned that much. Chen shook his head. This is wrong. War is wrong. She knows that better than any of us. Back in the surf, Garrison released Maya and waded toward shore. Log PT, you're carrying alone. If you drop it, you're done. The log was 200 pounds of treated timber, 8 feet long. Normally, it took 6 recruits to lift it. Garrison was ordering her to carry it solo with a separated shoulder. Maya walked to where the log lay in the sand. The other recruits watched from formation, their faces shocked. Morrison broke ranks. Senior Chief, this is... Get back in formation, Seaman. She can't carry that log with her shoulder. I said, get back in formation. Morrison hesitated, then stepped back. His hands were clenched into fists. Maya squatted next to the log. Her right shoulder was useless. She'd have to lift with her left side, balance the weight across her back and hips. It was mechanically impossible. She gripped the log with her left hand, got her left shoulder under it, and stood. The weight was crushing. Her left knee buckled, her vision tunneled. But she took one step, then another. Garrison watched. 50 meters. Go! She made it 10 meters before the log started slipping. Her left shoulder was burning. Her right shoulder had gone numb. She adjusted her grip, kept moving. 15 meters. The log shifted. She went down on one knee, caught it before it hit the ground, stood again. 20 meters. Her left leg was shaking. Her breathing was ragged. Sweat mixed with seawater stung her eyes. 25 meters. The log tilted. She tried to compensate, overcorrected. The log fell. She went down with it, took the impact on her right shoulder. Something tore. She felt it separate completely. The pain was absolute, white and pure and overwhelming. She didn't scream. Garrison was there immediately. You failed. You dropped it. You're done. Maya pushed herself up with her left arm. Her right arm hung limp. I can continue. Your shoulder is destroyed. I can continue. You can't even lift your arm. Maya looked at him. Her face was pale. Blood ran from her nose where the log had clipped her during the fall. But her eyes were clear. I've operated with worse injuries in actual combat. This is just training. What are you talking about? She almost told him. Almost broke operational security right there. Told him about Syria. About the 7 men she'd killed. About running 12 miles with a dislocated shoulder and burns covering her back. But she didn't. Because that would be using her classified record as a shield. And she'd promised herself she'd earn respect through demonstrated capability, not through credentials. I'm talking about not quitting, she said instead. Garrison stared at her. Why? What is wrong with you? Any rational person would quit, would recognize when they're beaten. I'm not beaten. I'm injured. There's a difference. There's no difference when the injury prevents you from functioning. Then remove me officially. Medical separation. Do it properly. But I'm not ringing that bell. I'm not giving you the satisfaction of thinking you broke me." Something in Garrison snapped. He grabbed her injured shoulder and squeezed. The pain was indescribable. Maya's knees gave out. She went down hard. "You want to talk about combat?" Garrison shouted. "You want to talk about what's real? I watched my swim buddy die because someone on our team wasn't strong enough to pull their weight. I watched him bleed out in the dirt while we waited for a Kazivac that came too late because our weak link couldn't establish security fast enough." Maya looked up at him from the sand. Blood ran from her nose. Her right arm hung useless, but her voice was steady. "And you think punishing me brings him back?" Garrison froze. "You think breaking every female recruit makes up for losing him?" Maya continued. "You think if you can just weed out anyone who doesn't fit your definition of capable, you can prevent that loss from happening again?" "Shut up." "You're not protecting your teams. You're projecting your grief onto people who had nothing to do with his death. You're traumatized, and you never processed it, so now you hurt people because hurting them feels like control." Garrison's face went red. "You don't know anything about me." "I know you're afraid. Every time you look at me, you see your swim buddy dying. You think if you can break me, you can prove that women don't belong, that the standards shouldn't change, that everything would be fine if we just went back to the way things were before he died." "I said, shut up." "But you're wrong. You're not preventing anything. You're just hurting people because you never learned how to deal with loss." Garrison drew back his fist and swung. The punch came fast, fueled by rage and pain and 3 years of unprocessed grief. Maya moved faster. She'd trained in Krav Maga with CIA instructors in Langley. She'd used it in Syria when an ISIS fighter grabbed her in the burning safe house. Her body remembered. She slipped the punch with minimal movement, grabbed Garrison's extended arm with her functioning left hand, stepped inside his reach, used his momentum against him, and took him down. He hit the sand face first. Maya controlled his arm, applied pressure to the elbow joint, pinned him. It took 3 seconds. Every recruit in formation stood frozen. No one moved. No one spoke. Maya leaned close to Garrison's ear, her voice quiet enough that only he could hear. "I've killed men who were better trained than you. I could end you right now. But I won't, because unlike you, I've actually been to war, and I don't need to prove anything." "Stand down!" The voice came from behind them. Command voice. Absolute authority. Maya released Garrison immediately, stepped back, came to attention despite her destroyed shoulder. Captain James Keller strode across the sand, followed by Captains Voss and Chen and Commander Ward. All 4 wore the insignia of Naval Special Warfare. All 4 looked furious. Garrison stood, brushing sand from his uniform. His face had gone pale. Keller stopped directly in front of him. "Senior Chief Petty Officer Derek Garrison." "Yes, sir." "Do you know who you just assaulted?" "Petty Officer Second Class Maya Reeves, sir." "No." Voss stepped forward, her voice cold. "You assaulted a decorated combat veteran with a classified service record that requires DevGru level clearance to access." Garrison's expression went blank. "I don't understand, man." Chen pulled out a tablet, turned it to show Garrison the screen. Most of it was redacted black bars, but enough remained visible to tell the story. "Her name is Petty Officer Second Class Maya Reeves," Chen said. "Former CIA Special Activities Division paramilitary officer. She was embedded solo in Idlib province, Syria for 8 months, conducting reconnaissance on ISIS chemical weapons programs. When her cover was compromised, She spent 12 days evading capture while carrying intelligence that led to airstrikes eliminating an entire ISIS cell. Garrison stared at the screen. During her exfiltration, Voss continued, she eliminated 7 hostile fighters in close-quarters combat with a dislocated shoulder and second-degree burns covering her back. She saved intelligence that prevented chemical weapons attacks that would have killed hundreds of civilians. She was recommended for the Intelligence Star, but the operation remains classified, so the citation was never processed. Ward stepped closer. The only reason she's at BUD/S prep is because her operational cover was blown and the CIA needed somewhere to place her while her next assignment was determined. She's not here to prove women belong in combat. She's already proven it, in ways that will stay classified for the next 25 years. Garrison's hands were shaking. I didn't know. You didn't ask, Keller said flatly. You assumed. You judged her based on her appearance and her gender instead of her demonstrated capability. And when she outperformed your expectations, instead of reconsidering your assumptions, you escalated the abuse. Sir, I was maintaining standards. You were committing assault. Keller's voice cut across the beach. We've been documenting your pattern for the past week. The illegal surf torture, the equipment sabotage, the deliberately impossible standards applied only to female recruits. And now, in front of multiple witnesses, you grabbed a recruit by the neck, held her underwater in a manner consistent with waterboarding, and then threw a punch at her when she called you out on your unresolved grief. Garrison said nothing. Voss pulled out her phone, showed him the screen. This is the incident report filed by Petty Officer Christina Wade 18 months ago. She claimed you sabotaged her equipment and created impossible standards specifically for her. The complaint was dismissed by your battalion command. This, Chen said, showing another document, is the medical separation paperwork for Seaman Ashley Torres. Depression and anxiety following her removal from your program. She's out of the Navy entirely. And this, Ward finished, is the formal investigation being opened by Naval Criminal Investigative Service into your conduct as an instructor. You're being relieved of duty effective immediately. NCIS will contact you within 24 hours. Until then, you're restricted to your quarters. You're done, Senior Chief. Garrison looked at Maya. She stood at attention, her right arm hanging limp, blood drying on her upper lip, her face pale but composed. I was trying to protect them, Garrison said quietly. I was trying to make sure no one else died because you never processed your swim buddy's death, Maya said. Her voice wasn't cruel, just honest. You turned your grief into a weapon and used it against people who didn't deserve it. That's not protection. That's just pain finding new targets. Garrison's eyes filled. He turned away. Keller's voice was final. You're dismissed, Senior Chief. Report to your quarters. Now. Garrison walked away across the sand. His shoulders were slumped. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. Morrison broke ranks and ran to Maya. Jesus, your shoulder is fine, Maya said automatically. Then she swayed slightly. Voss caught her with her good arm. Medical, now! Commander Ward, call for a corpsman. I can walk, Maya said. I know you can. You're still getting a stretcher. That shoulder needs surgery, not tape. The corpsman arrived with a stretcher. Maya refused it, walked to the medical tent on her own power. The 4 SEAL officers followed. In the tent, the examining physician looked at the separation and swore quietly. This is grade 3, complete ligament disruption. You need surgery within the next 6 hours, or you risk permanent damage. How long is recovery? Maya asked. 6 months, minimum. With physical therapy, maybe you regain 80% function. Maya closed her eyes. 6 months meant missing her next operational window, meant more administrative holding, meant more time in the box. Voss read her expression. You're not going back to BUD/S prep. Ma'am, I can still... You misunderstand. You're not going back because you're being reassigned to Naval Special Warfare Development Group, Training Development Cell. We need someone with your operational background to help redesign our selection protocols. Maya looked up. Ma'am? You just proved that our current instructor evaluation system is broken, Keller said. You also proved that toughness has nothing to do with size or gender, and everything to do with mental resilience and tactical competence. We need that perspective. I'm not a SEAL. No, you're something better. You're someone who operated successfully in conditions most SEALs will never face. And you did it without the institutional support that we take for granted. That's valuable. Ward stepped forward. This is an offer, not an order. You can decline. But we could use you. And after you heal, if you want to deploy again, we'll find you something worth your skills. Maya looked at her destroyed shoulder, looked at the 4 officers watching her, thought about Garrison, broken by grief he'd never processed, thought about the 7 men she'd killed in Syria, about survival, about what it meant to prove yourself when the whole world assumed you couldn't. I accept, she said. Good, Voss replied. Now get that shoulder fixed. You've got work to do once you heal. They wheeled Maya toward the surgical center. As they moved through the door, she saw the remaining BUD/S prep recruits standing in formation, watching. Morrison stood at attention and saluted. One by one, the others followed. Maya couldn't return it with her destroyed shoulder, but she nodded to them, and that was enough. In his quarters, Derek Garrison sat on his rack and stared at a photograph of his swim buddy, taken 3 weeks before the mission that killed him. They were both smiling, arms around each other's shoulders, exhausted and happy after completing a training evolution. He'd spent 3 years blaming weakness for that death, spent 3 years trying to prevent it from happening again by eliminating anyone he thought might fail under pressure. He'd never once considered that his own unprocessed grief was the actual weakness, that his inability to accept loss and move forward was the real liability. Maya had been right. He wasn't protecting anyone. He was just hurting people because the alternative was feeling his own pain. He set the photograph down and put his head in his hands and finally, for the first time since Afghanistan, let himself cry. The surgery took 4 hours. The orthopedic surgeon at Naval Medical Center San Diego told Maya afterward that she'd never seen a shoulder separation that severe outside of motorcycle accidents or combat injuries. You completely tore 3 ligaments, the surgeon said. The acromioclavicular, the coracoclavicular, and you fractured your clavicle in 2 places. How were you still functioning? Maya's throat was raw from the breathing tube. Training. Training doesn't override anatomy. You should have been screaming. I've had worse. The surgeon looked at her chart, saw the classified notations, understood. Right. Well, you're going to need 6 months of physical therapy, minimum. Even then, you might not regain full range of motion. When can I return to duty? Light duty, 8 weeks. Full duty, 6 months. Operational status? We'll see. After the surgeon left, Captain Voss entered the recovery room. She pulled up a chair beside the bed. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck. You essentially did. Garrison's about to feel worse. Maya turned her head. The pain medication made everything slightly fuzzy. What happened? NCIS showed up at his quarters 2 hours ago. He's being formally investigated for assault, battery, abuse of authority, and conduct unbecoming. They're also reopening the cases of the 2 other female recruits he drove out. Christina Wade and Ashley Torres. Voss raised an eyebrow. You knew about them? I researched him before I arrived. Wanted to know who I was dealing with. And you still stayed quiet about his pattern? Would anyone have believed me without evidence? Or would they have just thought I was making excuses preemptively? Voss was quiet for a moment. You're probably right, which is why we documented everything before we moved. The video evidence is ironclad. He's done. What about the recruits? They're continuing Hell Night with a different instructor. Commander Ward is running it personally. He's tough, but fair. They'll be fine. Maya closed her eyes. The medication was pulling her under. Morrison? He's the one who gave the most detailed witness statement. Described everything Garrison did, everything you endured. He was shaking when he gave it. Said he'd never forgive himself for not intervening sooner. Not his fault. He knows. Doesn't make it easier. Maya drifted for a moment. When she came back, Voss was still there. Why did you wait so long to intervene? Maya asked. Voss's expression didn't change. Because you needed to fight your own battle. If we'd stepped in earlier, Garrison would have claimed we were protecting you because you couldn't protect yourself. Now, everyone saw you handle him. Everyone saw you take him down with one functioning arm. There's no question about your capability. I destroyed my shoulder proving a point. You exposed a systemic problem. Garrison wasn't the only instructor with this pattern. He was just the most blatant. The investigation is expanding. We're reviewing training protocols across all NSW commands. That's not why I stayed. I know. You stayed because quitting would have validated his assumptions. But your choice created an opportunity for institutional change. That matters. Maya's eyes closed again. This time, Voss let her sleep. 3 days later, NCIS Special Agent Rebecca Torres visited Maya's hospital room. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, with a recorder and a thick file. Petty Officer Reeves, I need your statement regarding Senior Chief Garrison's conduct. Maya had been expecting this. What do you need to know? Everything. Start from your first day at BUD/S prep. Maya walked Agent Torres through 3 weeks of escalating abuse. The deliberate equipment sabotage, the impossible standards applied only to her, the physical assaults disguised as training, the waterboarding in the surf zone. Why didn't you report any of this? Torres asked. Because I knew what would happen. I'd file a complaint. Garrison would claim he was maintaining standards. My complaint would be investigated, maybe sustained, maybe not. Either way, I'd be labeled as someone who couldn't handle pressure. Every future assignment would come with whispers that I got there by filing complaints instead of earning it. So you chose to endure assault rather than report it? I chose to prove my capability through performance rather than through paperwork. Torres leaned forward. Petty Officer, that's not how the system is supposed to work. The system doesn't work for women in combat roles. You know that. I know that. Everyone knows that. So, we adapt. Torres was quiet for a long moment. For what it's worth, you weren't wrong. The first complaint Christina Wade filed was dismissed as her being unable to handle tough training. The second was lost in administrative review. Ashley Torres never filed at all because she watched what happened to Wade. Then the system proved my point. It did, which is why this investigation is different. We have video evidence of Garrison assaulting you. We have multiple witness statements from recruits who saw the pattern. We have medical documentation of injuries that exceed normal training parameters. This isn't he said, she said. This is prosecutable. Maya shifted in the hospital bed. Her shoulder was immobilized in a complex brace. What happens to him? That depends on whether you want to press charges. I want him to get help. He's not evil, he's traumatized. He watched his swim buddy die and never processed it. Now he hurts people because he doesn't know how else to deal with the pain. Torres studied her. You're defending the man who destroyed your shoulder? I'm recognizing that broken people break other people. Punishment won't fix what's wrong with him. Therapy might. The Navy doesn't work that way. Then maybe the Navy should. 2 weeks after Maya's surgery, Christina Wade arrived at Naval Medical Center San Diego. She was 27, carrying 30 pounds more than she had during BOOD/S prep, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. Captain Voss had contacted her personally, told her the investigation was real this time, asked if she'd be willing to give a statement. Wade walked into Maya's hospital room with her hands shaking. "You don't know me," Wade said, "but I wanted to thank you." Maya was doing physical therapy exercises with her left arm. For what? For not quitting. For making them take this seriously. When I filed my complaint, they buried it, told me I was too sensitive, that Garrison was just maintaining high standards. I believed them, started thinking maybe I really was too weak. You weren't too weak. I know that now. But for 18 months, I believed it. I took the worst assignment I could find because I thought I didn't deserve anything better. I gave up. Wade sat in the visitor's chair. NCIS called me yesterday. They want my statement. They said with your case and mine together, they can prove a pattern. Will you give it? I don't know. My career is already ruined. Going on record means everyone will know I failed BUD/S prep, that I let an instructor run me off. Maya set down the therapy band. He didn't run you off. He assaulted you until your body broke. There's a difference. The Navy won't see it that way. The Navy is changing, slowly. But if you stay silent, nothing changes for the next woman who encounters someone like Garrison. Wade's eyes filled. I'm so tired of being brave. I was brave at BUD/S. I was brave when I filed the complaint. I was brave when they dismissed it and I kept serving anyway. I don't have any brave left. Then borrow mine. Give your statement. Let NCIS do the rest. Wade cried quietly for a few minutes, then she nodded. Okay. She gave her statement that afternoon. Ashley Torres gave hers 2 days later via video conference from Nebraska, where she was working at a community college after her medical separation from the Navy. Torres was 25, soft-spoken, with the kind of fragility that came from being broken and never properly healed. He told me I was worthless, Torres said during her statement. He told me I'd get someone killed. He told me every day for 6 weeks that I was a liability, a checkbox, a diversity hire who didn't earn my place. After a while, I started believing him. Agent Rebecca Torres, no relation, listened carefully. Did he ever physically assault you? He shoved me during PT, called it correcting my form. He made me do buddy carries with recruits twice my size until I collapsed, called it realistic training. He held me underwater during surf torture until I passed out, called it stress inoculation. Why didn't you report it? I watched Christina Wade report it, watched them destroy her for complaining. I wasn't strong enough to go through that. You were strong enough to survive his abuse. I survived. I didn't thrive. There's a difference. The investigation expanded. NCIS interviewed 47 current and former BUD/S prep recruits. 12 reported witnessing inappropriate conduct. 7 reported being personally targeted, though only the 3 women experienced the level of systematic abuse that constituted assault. The pattern was clear. Garrison pushed everyone hard. That was his job. But he pushed women beyond the bounds of training into the territory of punishment, motivated not by maintaining standards, but by proving they didn't belong. 4 weeks after Maya's surgery, the Navy convened a court-martial hearing. Garrison was offered a deal. accept non-judicial punishment under Article 15 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, or face a full court-martial on charges of assault, battery, and conduct unbecoming. His lawyer recommended taking the Article 15. A court-martial would mean a federal conviction, potential prison time, complete loss of retirement benefits. Garrison sat in the legal office and stared at the paperwork. 20 years of service, 2 combat deployments, a Bronze Star, all of it ending because he couldn't control his grief long enough to see the people in front of him as human beings instead of proxies for his pain. "What do you recommend?" he asked his lawyer. "Take the Article 15. You'll be reduced in rank, forfeit pay, probably be separated from service, but you'll keep your benefits and avoid federal conviction." "What happens if I fight it?" "You lose. The evidence is overwhelming. Video footage of you assaulting Petty Officer Reeves, multiple witness statements, medical documentation. You'll be convicted, sentenced to military prison, and lose everything." Garrison signed the Article 15 acceptance. The punishment came down 3 days later. Reduction in rank from E9 to E6, forfeiture of half pay for 6 months, removal from all training commands, and mandatory psychological evaluation and treatment. The psychological evaluation happened at Naval Medical Center San Diego, conducted by a Navy psychologist named Dr. Sarah Chen, who specialized in combat trauma. "Tell me about your swim buddy," Dr. Chen said during their first session. Garrison had been expecting the question. His name was Petty Officer First Class Marcus Webb. We went through BUD/S together, deployed together twice. "How did he die?" "Afghanistan. We were providing overwatch for an Army Special Forces team. Their position got overrun. We displaced to support them. During the movement, Marcus took enemy fire. The operator behind him wasn't fast enough establishing security. The delay gave enemy fighters time to flank our position. Marcus died trying to cover the gap." "You blamed the operator who was slow?" "I blamed the system that put someone in that position who wasn't ready." "Was the operator a woman?" Garrison hesitated. "No. He was a young male SEAL, fresh from training. But after that, whenever I saw someone I thought wasn't ready, I saw Marcus dying again." "And women became proxies for your fear?" "I believed women lowered standards, that their inclusion meant less capable operators were making it through selection, that someone like Marcus would die because we were prioritizing diversity over capability." But Petty Officer Reeves proved that assumption wrong. Garrison was quiet for a long time. "She proved a lot of things wrong. She was more capable than most of the male recruits I've trained. She endured conditions that should have broken anyone, and I nearly destroyed her because I couldn't see past my own trauma." "What do you feel when you think about what you did to her?" "Shame, guilt, anger at myself for being so blind." "Good. Those are appropriate emotions. The question is what you do with them." Over 6 weeks of therapy, Dr. Chen walked Garrison through his unresolved grief, his survivor's guilt, his fear of loss projected as anger toward anyone he perceived as weak. She helped him understand that his abuse of female recruits wasn't about maintaining standards. It was about maintaining control in a world where he'd lost someone he couldn't save. "You can't prevent loss through cruelty," Dr. Chen told him during their final session. "You can't protect people by breaking them. All you did was create new trauma while refusing to address your own." "I know that now." "Knowing isn't enough. You need to make amends. Not for your sake, but for the people you hurt." Garrison asked to meet with Maya. She agreed, though Captain Voss insisted on being present. They met in a conference room at the Naval Special Warfare Center. Garrison wore civilian clothes. He'd been separated from active duty pending his administrative discharge. Maya wore her service uniform, her right arm still in a sling. Garrison stood when she entered. Petty Officer Reeves, thank you for agreeing to meet. Maya sat across from him. I'm here. Talk. I want to apologize for everything I did. For the abuse, the assault, the systematic campaign to break you. You didn't deserve any of it. No, I didn't. I was projecting my own trauma onto you. I was trying to prevent a loss I couldn't control by controlling who I thought was weak. I was wrong. Maya studied his face. He looked older, diminished. The swagger was gone, replaced by something smaller and more honest. Why did you really hate me? She asked. Garrison met her eyes. Because you reminded me that I didn't have all the answers. That my assumptions about capability were wrong. That I'd been using standards as a weapon instead of a benchmark. And instead of examining my beliefs, I tried to break you so I could keep believing what I wanted to believe. Did it work? No. You broke me instead. Made me see what I'd become. Maya leaned forward. I don't forgive you. What you did to me, to Christina Wade, to Ashley Torres, that wasn't training. That was abuse. You destroyed careers, damaged bodies, inflicted trauma on people who trusted you to prepare them for service. I know. But I understand why you did it. And I hope the therapy helps you become someone who doesn't hurt people to manage your own pain. Garrison's eyes filled. That's more grace than I deserve. Probably, but I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because staying angry takes energy I'd rather use elsewhere. After Garrison left, Captain Voss turned to Maya. That was generous. That was pragmatic. Garrison's finished. His career is over. Spending energy hating him doesn't change what happened. It just keeps me trapped in the past. Most people couldn't let go that easily. I didn't let go. I just decided he's not worth carrying. 6 weeks after her surgery, Maya started physical therapy. The therapist was a former Army Ranger named James Wu, who'd rehabilitated hundreds of special operations personnel. Your shoulder is a mess, Wu said during their first session. But we've seen worse. You'll get function back, but it's going to hurt. I can handle pain. Everyone says that. Then we start therapy. Wu was right. The therapy was excruciating. Every movement felt like tearing scar tissue. Every stretch felt like breaking bones. Maya's shoulder had been immobilized for 6 weeks, and now the muscles had atrophied. The joint had stiffened. Everything had to be rebuilt from scratch. Raise your arm, Wu instructed. Maya tried. Her arm made it 6 inches before the pain stopped her. Higher? I can't. You can. The question is whether you're willing to hurt enough to do it. Maya gritted her teeth and raised her arm another 3 inches. Tears ran down her face. She didn't make a sound. Good. Again. They worked for 90 minutes. When they finished, Maya's shoulder was on fire and her arm was shaking. Same time tomorrow, Wu said. We'll do this every day until you regain full range of motion. How long? 12 weeks minimum, maybe 6 months. Depends on how hard you're willing to work. Maya thought about Syria, about running 12 miles with a dislocated shoulder, about climbing through a burning window with burns covering her back, about surviving 12 days in ISIS territory because stopping meant death. I'll do whatever it takes. Morrison visited her during week 8 of recovery. He brought flowers, which he set awkwardly on the bedside table. The guys wanted me to tell you they miss you, he said. Hell Night continued without you. 17 of us finished. We graduate Bud/S prep next week. Congratulations. It doesn't feel right. Celebrating while you're stuck here recovering. You earned it. Don't diminish that. Morrison sat in the visitor's chair. I should have stopped him sooner. Should have said something, done something. I just watched while he destroyed you. And if you'd intervened, what would have changed? Garrison would have retaliated. You'd have been removed from the program. Nothing would have been different except you'd have sacrificed your career for nothing. But you sacrificed yours. I didn't sacrifice anything. I made a choice. There's a difference. Your shoulder will heal. Maybe not completely, but enough. Morrison was quiet for a moment. Captain Voss told us about Syria, about what you did there, about the 7 men you killed during exfiltration. Maya's expression didn't change. That's classified. She said you're the toughest operator she's ever met, regardless of gender or branch. She said you survived conditions that would have killed most SEALs. She wanted us to understand that when we watched you endure Garrison's abuse. We weren't watching someone prove they belonged. We were watching someone who'd already proven it, demonstrate grace under pressure we couldn't imagine. Captain Voss talks too much. She wanted us to know what real toughness looks like. Wanted us to understand that it's not about physical strength or aggressive posturing. It's about mental resilience and tactical competence under impossible conditions. Maya looked at Morrison. You're going to be a good SEAL. You've got the right mindset. You recognize when you're wrong and you're willing to learn. That matters more than physical capability. I learned it from watching you. Then pass it forward. When you see someone being underestimated or abused, intervene. Be the person I needed during Hell Night. I will, I promise. After Morrison left, Maya sat alone in the hospital room and thought about promises. She'd made one to herself after Syria, that she'd never let trauma define her, that she'd never use her classified record as a shield, that she'd earn respect through demonstrated capability. She'd kept that promise. It had cost her a shoulder and 6 months of her career. But she'd kept it, and that would have to be enough. 6 months after her surgery, Maya stood on the beach at Coronado and raised her right arm above her head without pain for the first time since Garrison had destroyed her shoulder. The physical therapy had been brutal. 12 weeks of daily sessions with James Wu, who'd pushed her past every threshold she thought she had. But she'd done it. 85% range of motion, maybe 90 on good days. Enough. Captain Voss walked across the sand toward her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. How does it feel? Maya rotated her shoulder, testing. Strong enough? Wu says you pushed harder than any patient he's worked with. Said you cried during every session, but never stopped. Pain is just information. You keep saying that. One day you might actually believe it. Voss handed her a coffee. Your orders came through. You're cleared for operational status. Maya's pulse quickened. Where? Pacific Theater. Joint task force with South Korean Special Forces, North Korea border region. Intelligence gathering, reconnaissance, potential direct action if the situation requires it. When? 2 weeks. But first, I need a favor. Maya turned to face her. What kind of favor? Morrison's BUD/S class is starting their advanced combat training module. I want you to teach a session on close quarters combat and tactical decision-making under stress. I'm not an instructor. You're someone who survived conditions most operators will never face. You're someone who proved that capability has nothing to do with size or gender, and everything to do with mental resilience. These recruits need to see that. Maya thought about Morrison, about the other 17 recruits who'd finished Hell Night after she'd been hospitalized, about the promise she'd made to pass forward what she'd learned. 1 session, she agreed. 1 session, tomorrow morning, 600. The class assembled at dawn on the combat training grounds. 18 recruits, including Morrison, who now wore the rank of Petty Officer 3rd Class after completing BUD/S. They stood at attention while Captain Voss made introductions. This is Petty Officer 2nd Class Maya Reeves. Some of you know her. Some of you know her reputation. All of you are going to learn from her this morning. Petty Officer Reeves, they're yours. Voss walked away. Maya stood before the formation, feeling 18 pairs of eyes on her. Most of the recruits knew who she was. Morrison had made sure the story spread. But 3 were new transfers who joined after Hell Night. One of them, a tall kid with a Texas drawl named Petty Officer Parker, spoke up. "Ma'am, no disrespect, but what are you going to teach us about combat? You're what, 5'4"? Morrison's jaw tightened. "Parker, shut your mouth." "I'm just asking a legitimate question."
How is someone her size going to demonstrate close-quarters combat techniques against operators our size? Maya raised her hand, stopping Morrison's response. "It's a fair question. Petty Officer Parker, step forward." Parker approached, confident. He was 6'3", 220 pounds, built like a linebacker. He towered over Maya. "How much combat experience do you have, Petty Officer?" Maya asked. "Completed BUD/S last month, ma'am. Top of my class in hand-to-hand combat." "Good. Attack me." Parker hesitated. "Ma'am?" "You questioned whether I can demonstrate techniques against someone your size. So demonstrate what you learned in BUD/S. Attack me. Full speed." Parker glanced at Morrison, who shook his head slightly. But Parker's pride was engaged now. He couldn't back down without looking weak. He threw a punch, fast and committed. Maya moved like water. She slipped inside his reach, controlled his extended arm, used his momentum against him, and took him down. Parker hit the dirt face first. Maya had his arm locked, pressure on the shoulder joint, total control. It took 2 seconds. She released him immediately, stepped back, offered her hand. Parker took it, stood, his face red. "Size doesn't matter if you understand leverage, timing, and commitment," Maya said quietly. "I've survived fights where I was outweighed by 80 pounds because I was better trained and calmer under pressure. That's what I'm teaching you today. Not how to be bigger or stronger. How to be smarter and more controlled." Parker nodded, chastened. "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Now everyone pair up. I'm going to show you techniques that work when you're smaller, weaker, or injured. Because in real operations, you don't get to choose your conditions. You just have to survive them." For 2 hours, Maya taught them what CIA instructors had taught her. How to fight when exhausted. How to make decisions when your body was shutting down. How to stay calm when everything around you was chaos. She demonstrated on Parker repeatedly, showing the recruits that technique beat strength every time. She had Morrison simulate injured scenarios, fighting with one arm immobilized, fighting with a leg injury, fighting while protecting a wounded teammate. "Combat isn't about domination," she told them. "It's about survival and mission accomplishment. Sometimes that means killing the enemy. Sometimes it means evading them. Sometimes it means protecting your team while they complete the objective. Knowing which choice to make under pressure, that's what separates good operators from great ones." Near the end of the session, a recruit named Chen asked, "Ma'am, is it true you killed 7 enemy fighters during exfiltration in Syria?" The formation went quiet. Maya met Morrison's eyes. He looked apologetic. He'd clearly told the story, despite its classification. "What I did or didn't do in Syria is classified," Maya said carefully. "What I can tell you is that survival in hostile territory requires constant decision-making. Every choice has consequences. You learn to make the best choice available, accept the consequences, and keep moving.
That's true whether you're operating in Syria, North Korea, Afghanistan, or anywhere else. The specifics don't matter. The mindset does.
But how do you deal with killing someone? Chen pressed. How do you live with that?
Maya was quiet for a long moment. You live with it by understanding it was necessary, by knowing that your actions saved lives, completed the mission, protected your team. You don't celebrate it, you don't glorify it, but you don't let it destroy you either. You carry it as the cost of doing the job you were trained to do.
Do you have nightmares?
Everyone has nightmares. The question is whether you let them control you, or whether you process them and continue serving. I chose to continue serving. After the session ended, Morrison approached Maya while the other recruits were securing equipment. "Thank you for coming back," he said.
"Thank you for teaching us properly."
"You did well during the demonstration. Your tactical decisions were sound."
"I learned from watching you. During Hell Night, when Garrison was trying to break you, you never made emotional decisions. You stayed tactical. That's what I'm trying to do."
Maya studied him.
"You're going to be a good operator. You've got the right mindset. Just remember, it's not about being the toughest or the strongest. It's about being the most prepared and the most adaptable."
"I won't forget." Morrison hesitated. "Can I ask you something personal?"
"Go ahead."
"Do you regret it? Staying silent about Garrison's abuse? Destroying your shoulder to prove a point?" Maya thought about the question, thought about Christina Wade, who'd filed a complaint and been destroyed for it, thought about Ashley Torres, who'd stayed silent and been destroyed anyway, thought about her own destroyed shoulder, 6 months of recovery, the career opportunities she'd missed.
"I don't regret fighting my own battle," she said finally. "I regret that I had to fight it at all. I regret that the system is broken enough that women have to choose between reporting abuse and being labeled as weak, or enduring abuse and being broken. But I don't regret how I handled it. I made the best choice available to me at the time."
"You changed things. Captain Voss told us the investigation expanded beyond Garrison. They're reviewing training protocols across all Naval Special Warfare Commands. They're implementing new instructor oversight systems. What you went through, it mattered."
"What Christina Wade and Ashley Torres went through mattered too. They were just as brave. They just didn't have 4 SEAL captains watching their backs."
"True. But you're the one who made them pay attention." Maya didn't respond to that. After a moment, Morrison spoke again. "We're deploying in 3 weeks. My team. First operational assignment. I'm scared I'll mess up, make the wrong call, get someone killed."
Everyone feels that way before their first deployment. The fear is healthy. It means you understand the stakes.
"How do I deal with it?"
You train. You prepare. You trust your teammates. And when the moment comes, you make the best decision you can with the information available. Then you live with the consequences." She paused. "And Morrison? When you see someone being underestimated or abused, someone who doesn't have SEAL captains watching their backs, you intervene. Be the person I needed during Hell Night."
Morrison's eyes were bright. "I will. I promise."
"Good. Then you'll do fine."
That evening, Maya walked alone on Coronado Beach. The sun was setting over the Pacific, painting the sky orange and pink. The same beach where Garrison had assaulted her 6 months ago. The same sand where she'd proven herself at the cost of her shoulder. She touched the scar on her shoulder through her shirt, feeling the ridge where the surgeon had reconstructed the joint. It still ached sometimes. Probably always would. But it worked. She'd made sure of that through months of brutal physical therapy. Her phone buzzed. A text from Captain Voss. "Your team brief is Wednesday, 900. Welcome back to operational status." Maya smiled slightly.
After 6 months in administrative holding, she was finally returning to the work she was trained for. Pacific Theater, North Korea border region. The kind of mission that required her specific skill set. Solo operations, language capability, tactical expertise. A second text came through, this one from an unknown number. She opened it. Petty Officer Reeves, this is Christina Wade. I heard you're deploying soon. I wanted to thank you again for making them take my complaint seriously. I got reassigned to a training command.
Not BUD/S, but better than Nebraska. I'm teaching recruits basic marksmanship. It's good work. I'm healing. Thank you for fighting when I couldn't. Fair winds and following seas. Maya stared at the message for a long moment, then typed a response. You fought too. Your complaint mattered. Your courage mattered. Keep teaching. We need good instructors. A third text arrived, this one from Ashley Torres. I don't know if you remember me. I'm the one who left the Navy after Garrison broke me. NCIS contacted me yesterday. They're offering me the opportunity to return to service if I want it. New command, fresh start. I'm thinking about it. Whatever I decide, I wanted you to know that watching you stand up to him helped me find the courage to give my statement. You saved more than just your own career. Thank you. Maya sat on the sand and read both messages again. She thought about Garrison, now separated from the Navy, attending mandatory therapy, trying to rebuild his life after 20 years of service ended in disgrace. She didn't hate him anymore, didn't forgive him either, just recognized him as a broken person who'd broken others until someone finally stopped him. The next morning, Maya reported to the Naval Special Warfare Development Group facility for her deployment brief. The conference room held 12 people: Captain Voss, Captain Keller, Captain Chen, Commander Ward, and 8 other operators from various special operations units: SEALs, Marine Raiders, Air Force Special Tactics. This is a joint task force, Voss explained, pulling up a map of the Korean peninsula on the screen. Your mission is intelligence gathering along the North Korean border. The political situation is deteriorating. We need eyes on specific military installations, communications intercepts, pattern of life analysis on key personnel. Keller pointed to specific locations. You'll be operating in small teams, minimal support, high risk. The North Koreans have increased border security significantly. Detection means international incident at best, capture or death at worst. Maya studied the map, calculating distances, terrain challenges, extraction routes. This was the kind of mission she'd trained for, the kind that required her specific skills. What's my role? She asked. Your primary reconnaissance, Chen replied. Your language capability and solo operational experience make you ideal for close target reconnaissance. You'll be going places the rest of the team can't, getting information no one else can access. Timeline? 6-month rotation. You deploy in 2 weeks. After the brief, Captain Voss pulled Maya aside. Are you ready for this? Your shoulder is functional. Wu cleared me for full operational status. I'm not asking about medical clearance. I'm asking if you're ready. Mentally, emotionally. 6 months ago, you were fighting Garrison. Now you're deploying to one of the most hostile environments on the planet. That's a lot of transition. Maya met her eyes. I've been ready since Syria. This assignment is what I was trained for, what I'm good at. I'm not afraid. Fear would be reasonable. Fear is just information. It tells you something is dangerous. It doesn't tell you not to do it. Voss smiled slightly. You really believe that, don't you? I survived 12 days in ISIS territory believing it. I'll survive 6 months on the North Korean border the same way. Fair enough. Just be careful.
And Maya? What you did with Morrison's class, teaching them properly, showing them what real capability looks like, that mattered. You're changing the culture from the inside. That's valuable work. I'm just passing forward what was given to me. That's exactly why it matters.
2 days before deployment, Morrison and his BUD/S class requested permission to see Maya off. Captain Voss approved it. They assembled on the tarmac at Naval Air Station North Island, where Maya's transport was being loaded. 18 operators, fresh from training, standing at attention as Maya approached with her deployment gear. Morrison stepped forward, saluted. "Petty Officer Reeves, on behalf of the class, we wanted to thank you for everything you taught us, for showing us what real toughness looks like, for proving that capability isn't about size or gender. It's about mental resilience and tactical competence." Maya returned the salute. "You earned your place here. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And when you deploy, remember what I taught you. Make smart decisions under pressure. Protect your teammates. Complete the mission. Everything else is just noise." Parker, the recruit who'd challenged her during training, spoke up. "Ma'am, I wanted to apologize again for questioning you. I learned more from that 2-second takedown than I did from months of hand-to-hand training." "Then make sure you pass it forward. Teach the next generation properly. Break the cycle of assuming capability based on appearance." The loading crew signaled that Maya's transport was ready. She picked up her gear bag, adjusted her shoulder strap. The right shoulder still ached under heavy weight, probably always would, and walked toward the aircraft. Morrison called out, "Petty Officer Reeves!" She turned. "Come back safe. We need more instructors like you." Maya nodded once, then boarded the C-17 transport. The ramp closed behind her. Through the small window, she watched Morrison and his class salute as the aircraft taxied toward the runway. She thought about everything that had happened in the past 6 months. Garrison's abuse, her destroyed shoulder, the investigation, the institutional changes. Christina Wade getting reassigned to meaningful work. Ashley Torres considering returning to service. Morrison and 17 other operators learning that capability wasn't about conforming to stereotypes. It was about performance under pressure. She thought about Derek Garrison, broken by grief he'd never processed, using abuse as a weapon against people who reminded him of his own pain. She didn't forgive him for what he'd done, but she understood him now. Understood that hurt people until someone intervenes. She thought about the 4 SEAL captains who'd watched her endure Hell Night, who'd waited until the evidence was ironclad before moving, who'd trusted her to fight her own battle. They'd risked their careers to hold Garrison accountable. That mattered. But most of all, she thought about the promise she'd made to herself after Syria. That she'd never let trauma define her, that she'd earn respect through demonstrated capability, not through credentials or complaints. That she'd prove women belonged in combat, not by demanding inclusion, but by performing at levels that made exclusion impossible. She'd kept that promise. It had cost her 6 months of her career and permanent damage to her shoulder, but she'd kept it. The aircraft climbed through the clouds, heading west toward the Pacific, toward North Korea, toward her next mission. Maya closed her eyes and let her breathing settle. The fear was there, it always was. But fear was just information. It told her the mission was dangerous. It didn't tell her to quit. And she never would. Because Senior Chief Derek Garrison had thought he was protecting his teams by breaking anyone who didn't fit his definition of a warrior. He'd been wrong. Real warriors were forged by standards, not stereotypes. By mental resilience, not physical intimidation. By the ability to make hard decisions under impossible pressure
and live with the consequences. Maya had proven that in Syria when she'd killed 7 men to save intelligence that prevented chemical weapons attacks. She'd proven it at Coronado when she'd endured systematic abuse rather than validate assumptions about female weakness. And she'd prove it again in North Korea, operating in conditions most people couldn't survive, completing missions others couldn't accomplish. Not because she was trying to prove anything anymore, but because it was the job she was trained to do, the work that mattered, the mission that required her specific capabilities. Garrison had tried to break her to maintain his version of standards. Instead, he'd broken himself against her refusal to accept his limitations as truth. And the only person who'd been destroyed that day was the one who'd forgotten that honor wasn't about excluding people who looked different. It was about holding everyone to the same high standard and respecting those who met it. That was the real lesson. Not that women belonged in combat because they demanded inclusion, but that warriors earned their place through capability, regardless of who they were or what they looked like. And anyone who tried to prevent that through abuse instead of standards didn't understand what it meant to be a warrior at all. Maya opened her eyes as the aircraft leveled off at altitude. Through the window, she could see the Pacific stretching endlessly below, blue and vast and unforgiving. Somewhere beyond that ocean was her next mission, her next chance to prove that capability mattered more than assumptions, her next opportunity to serve. She was ready. Her shoulder ached. Her body carried scars from Syria and Coronado both. But she was ready, and that was all that mattered.